Okay, hello everyone. Today, Group 10 will present about Chapter 10, which is searching and using scholarly literature. Okay, so let's start with this chapter. In this chapter, we'll discuss about something that all of us are very familiar ever since attending university, which is scholarly literature. We have been using this literature for assignment and research. However, it can also be used for like problem-solving projects as well. In the long history of management research, it is likely that problems are comparable to your business problem have been studied before. Although the literature will never provide the complete answers, it can offer important input to each of the steps of a problem-solving project. Okay, so now we move on to discuss about different types of publication. Here we have the scholarly one, the professional one, the books, and other type of research publication. So for the first one, scholarly journals. They are the most important medium for the publication of research results. Articles in scholarly journals present findings at the frontier of knowledge and are often follow the structure, where the introduction answers the 5 questions about the subject, the importance of it, what's already known about it and what's not, and what the author have done about the missing knowledge of the subject. After the introduction, research articles usually discuss successively the theoretical background, hypothesis, research method, result implication, and finally the conclusion. Most scholarly journals use a through selection procedure. Papers submitted to this journal will be double-blind referred. That means that the paper is sent to a number of reviewers who do not know who the author of the paper is, vice versa. This review procedure is intended to make the evaluation of the submitted paper as objective as possible. Okay, now we move on to the next type, which is the professional journals. Some of the most popular and professional journals are the Harvard Business Review, the MIT Sloan Management Review, and the California Management Review. These journals are targeted at an audience of practitioners, including managers and consultants. They can be a rich source of innovative ideas and solution concepts for FPS projects, but we cannot rely blindly on it because of the limited evidence given for the effectiveness. Okay, now we move on to the next type, which is books. We have management books, scholarly one, textbook, and handbooks. This type of book differs in their value for FPS project. Management books are often based on a mix of author own experience, the theories of others, and speculation, and particularly oriented at the design, change, and improvement of organization, making them suited as a sort of idea for redesign. Scholarly books present the outcome of research program or several individual studies. Frequently, part of the results, such as research program, has already been published in scholarly journal. Handbook and textbook both provide an overview of a certain field of study and summarize years of scientific research, whereas textbooks are usually written for students and guide newcomers into a subject. Handbooks usually do not have this educational orientation. Textbooks and handbooks are excellent starting point in the quest for useful literature. Unfortunately, it often takes many years before handbooks and textbooks about a new field of study are published. Okay, that's the end of my part. Now we move on to the next part.
The remainder of this chapter presents guidelines for good literature review. A basic rule for good literature review is to pay the same attention to quality as in empirical research. So there are 4 requirements for the literature review. First, you have to focus on a clear question if it is to provide systematic insights. Second, you would like to done the literature review as orientation and as a systematic review. And third is you have to use the evidence concerning hypothesis and solution concepts, like you have to form the basis of evidence-based or evidence-informed approach to professional practice. And lastly is the protocol that defines step and procedure. So to meet the requirement, you have to execute first, you formulate a question on what you want to get out of research and review of the literature. Second, find out what is the most important question, concept, model, approaches, theory, and method. Third is iterative review to know what the specific problem is and what you do not yet know, thus formulate more specific questions. And fourth is gather and evaluate the evidence supporting and contradicting a particular hypothesis or theory of hypothesis and solution concepts. Fifth is a protocol. You have to explicit the objective and research question of the literature review, the domain and corpus of literature to be reviewed, keyword and search strings, and the criteria for assessing quality and selecting publication, and the analytical approach. And last but not least is you have to prevent the empty reference.
And for the next part, we will move on to approaches to search for literature. And to save you a lot of time and work, try looking at review articles, textbooks, and handbooks, and there you can find many relevant references for the topic you are talking about. And two systematic ways for literature searching are search engines and the snowball method. For search engines, we must talk about the one that we all are too familiar with, which is Google Scholar. Google Scholar will point you at relevant literature. It also ranks them based on citation counts, but however, it doesn't differ between high or low quality publications. Therefore, it requires you to have your own scanning and selection. But other than Google Scholar, we also have other sites such as ProQuest, ResearchGate, or your own university e-library. And the second method is the search. In the search of literature is the snowball method, which can both be done backwards or forward. Backward snowballing is when you trace the references of a book or article to find relevant literature to investigate further on. And it is called the snowball method since one reference can lead you to another article, but a reference in that article that you've just found can also lead you to another, and so on. And the list of articles just gets longer and bigger, just like a snowball rolling down the hill. And for forward snowballing, it is searching for articles that cite that one specific publication. If you know a key publication of a topic, you can use the search engines to find later articles that refer to that key publication. And this helps to find a large share of the literature on the topic. After obtaining a list of relevant literature, you need to narrow it down to select the most suitable and applicable ones to your project. And for the next step for you is to the next step after finding and selecting the literature, its content has to be integrated and combined through integrations of the idea. We have some of the following approaches. First up is the sequential presentation. It consists of a sequential treatment of publications and the ideas and findings presented in them. It shows what other researchers have said and done, but does not add anything or any value to it. It just leaves the literature as fragmented as it already was. And when we take this sequential treatment a step further through the qualitative integration, this approach is suited to the integration of evidence concerning a well-defined hypothesis. The qualitative integration of findings has more applications but fewer procedures and are available in the literature. And one type of qualitative integration is design-oriented qualitative integration. And this approach will focus on formulating propositions using the CIMO logic with the following structure. In a class of problematic contexts, use this intervention to invoke these generative mechanisms to deliver these outcomes. And lastly, is the quantitative integration, in which the basic idea behind is that the results of individual studies are used as data points in the statistical analysis. And therefore, we come to the conclusion of this chapter is that literature is very crucial in your problem solving, and each of the steps in your problem solving cycle can be supported by literature. Therefore, FBS projects benefit a lot from the use of this existing scholarly literature, and therefore using the literature in a critical and creative way is a hallmark of theory-informed FPS. And that is it for chapter 10. Thank you for listening.